Hi, it's Rob from Speakers Corner UK, and this was a conversation I had on Sunday the 7th of August 2016 in Speakers Corner with this Muslim gentleman, and it's been posted on YouTube and there's been quite a few comments about it. So what I thought I'd do is actually review this conversation, make a few corrections from my side and clarify a few things, and also point out a few discrepancies that I thought happened in this conversation. I hope this will be instructive for people who are open-minded, who want to learn something. If you've got any questions or comments, please post them below. I look forward to hearing and interacting with you. So let's get started here, because this conversation really came about for me wanting to understand a certain point about how God created the universe from nothing. So let's get started.
Okay, my friend. So the question I asked some of your colleagues is, Muslims claim that God created the universe from nothing. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, kun fayakun. Yeah, being it is. Yeah.
I'm saying if I investigate that, that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Let me explain why, or let me ask you a question to see if we agree.
Okay.
Before the creation of the universe, was God everywhere, infinitely, forever?
What do you mean everywhere, infinitely?
Okay, so at this point, what the question I should have asked, I didn't ask the question as coherently as I could have. What I should have asked was, prior to the beginning of the universe, was God all there was and there was nothing else? In other words, was the only God infinitely in every possible conceivable way prior to the beginning of the universe? Because if he's omnipotent, in other words, all-powerful, one of those properties would be that he's everywhere at all times. And so that was really the question. Is God, or has God been everywhere at all times prior to the beginning of the universe?
So before the creation of the universe, was God everywhere that could have been?
I don't understand your question. I believe before the universe was created, there was God.
Was there only God and nothing else?
Yes.
Okay, so that's really the point that I wanted to get to, which I should have asked in the beginning, which hence was why there was a little bit of confusion on his side because of the way I asked the question. Was there only God and nothing else? And he says yes.
Good. So you say he created something from nothing.
Yeah.
Can God be part of nothing?
What do you mean? Can he be part of
So you said God created the universe from nothing.
Yeah.
Prior to that, you said there was only God and nothing else.
Yeah.
So presumably God is not part of nothing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point there's two things actually. One that we don't address in this video, but I'll bring up here briefly. If God was everywhere and there was nothing else prior to the beginning of the universe, logically to me that means that there was only God. There was God essence everywhere and there wasn't anything but God. What I've basically asked here is, did God create the universe from nothing? So part of when he says yes to this is suddenly at some point there must have been some nothingness within this God space. And so that's what I'm asking him. Is God part of this nothingness or not? And he says no. So presumably suddenly there's a space or sphere in which there's nothingness. God has removed himself and he's now created the universe in some way.
So if there's a part of nothingness which isn't God and he created the universe, that isn't coherent because then he's not all-powerful.
Okay.
So this is the key part. If suddenly God removes himself from a particular area, is he still all-powerful? To me, that doesn't make logical sense. If he's incapable of being in a certain place, then how on earth could he be all-powerful? So we've got a paradox here. Either he's not all-powerful, or he is all-powerful and he created the universe out of God's stuff. And that's really what I want to get to.
Are you an atheist?
Yes.
Okay, but as an atheist, you believe that nothing was the Big Bang, ain't it?
No, I don't.
Okay, so here he goes to a common misconception that a lot of Muslims have, and of course he generalizes to all atheists. That atheists believe that the universe came about, the Big Bang came from nothing. In fact, as we'll see, that's not what I believe. But he doesn't ask me the question, he just makes an assumption. So here already we start to see that this is potentially not an honest conversation.
Why don't you ask me what I believe and I'll tell you?
Okay, most atheists they believe that nothing was the Big Bang.
Yes, no, that's
Are
not
you
correct.
atheist or agnostic?
No, I'm atheist.
Okay, you're saying there definitely wasn't a God.
Okay, so you'll see a little bit more of this video now, but he's confused about the difference between an agnostic and a couple of different versions of atheism. So very quickly, an agnostic is somebody that is unsure. They're on the fence, as I would say. They're 50-50. They don't know one way or another. There's two versions of atheism. One is called strong atheism, which is definitely there is no God, and that's what he's referring to here. My position is what's called weak atheism. I didn't come up with that name. It's just something that atheists have come up with to differentiate the two different types of atheists. So my position is there's no good reason or evidence, and the burden of proof has not been met to believe in a God. Therefore, I have a non-belief in God, but I don't believe God is impossible. In other words, it's possible that there's some kind of deity, some supernatural being out there, but I just don't see any good reasons or evidence yet. So there's a difference between those two atheism positions.
No, I'm saying there's no good reason to believe and there's no evidence, and that's not the agnostic position. Let me help you.
No, you don't need to help me because I know what agnostic is. Agnostic says someone who says they're not sure if there's a supreme being. You don't have to use the term God. Atheist says definitely no.
No, you're wrong.
No.
There's two versions of atheists. One says there's definitely no God. My position is there's no good reason, but I don't rule God out.
Okay, so you're agnostic.
No.
Okay, so here we see that he's really not interested in listening to my position carefully and just representing what I actually said. I've basically just said that I don't believe there's a God, but I don't rule him out. In other words, there's no good evidence or reasons, as I've just explained. What does he say? Oh, well, you're an agnostic. So at this point, we can see, is this really going to be an honest conversation? And it certainly doesn't seem to be that way.
So you're agnostic.
No.
Okay, so I want to ask you, since you don't believe in a God, I take it you believe do you believe in right and wrong?
Okay, so at this point he wants to shift very quickly on to the moral argument. In other words, about right and wrong. How do we know what's right and wrong? What's the foundation? He wants to move on to this, but as you'll see, I still want to get some kind of an answer about the universe.
Yes, I do.
How does right and wrong exist?
We'll come back to that. I'm happy to talk to you. Let's finish the other question. Otherwise, we go all over the show.
I answered your question, though.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
So then you have to modify your position.
Sorry.
You have to modify your position.
I don't need to modify. I answered your question.
You said to me, God can't be part of nothing. And I said to you, in which case he's not all powerful.
That doesn't make sense.
It does. You said to me, God created the universe from nothing.
Yeah.
I said to you, nothing doesn't exist because God was everything.
Okay,
so there's no nothingness.
Okay, but just like you tried to use that against me, what caused the Big Bang?
Okay, so here we can clearly see either he doesn't actually understand the question that I'm posing, or he doesn't want to answer it. And what he's actually doing now is something called a tu quid quo fallacy. So this is basically where you ask somebody something, and instead of answering, they immediately come back and try to ask you or to find out what your position is because they don't have an answer. So this is not a good argumentation. The best thing you can say is, hey, I don't understand your question, or I don't have an answer for that. That's absolutely fine. But if you attempt to sidestep answering the question by coming back with a question of your own to me to try and get us on even ground, this isn't an honest way to progress in a conversation like this.
What caused the Big Bang? We're unsure. The best explanation is the quantum vacuum.
Did something cause the quantum vacuum?
Yes.
What caused that?
That's infinite.
It's infinite?
Yes.
Okay, so you believe in infinite confident vacuum, I believe in infinite God.
Yes, there's a big difference, however.
So what's the problem?
There's a big difference.
You didn't think I was going to come up with that,
No,
did you?
I know.
Okay, so at this point we can immediately see this is a game for him. He's not here to have an honest conversation. It's like, I want to be able to answer all your questions. I want to look good. I want to make you look foolish. And again, this is not ideal. I probably should have stopped the conversation here because we weren't really going to have an honest conversation. So my fault entirely. I should have just said, you know what, I don't think we're on an honest footing here. Thank you very much for your time. We'll move on. But I did let this carry on, and as we see, it certainly goes downhill from here.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Checkmate.
You think so?
Yes.
No,
yes.
my friend.
The quantum
You've got
vacuum
to think a little bit more about
the
it.
quantum vacuum existed forever, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I call it God.
You can call it that.
So you're coming closer. He was atheist, and now he's becoming.
Become Muslim.
Yeah. Slowly. I think he might take Shahada. So he was atheist. Now you're saying okay. So the quantum vacuum is something.
Correct.
So you're not atheist.
Yes.
Again, not listening to what an atheist is. He's not asking me what is my position. He's just asserting what he thinks I believe. Again, this is not a good argument, and you'll see I do a bit of a cheeky analogy here to show him how this is a fallacious way of having a conversation.
Ha!
That's right.
But he just said he was atheist.
I'm an atheist.
You're confused.
Not at all.
Atheists believe there was nothing before the Big Bang.
No, I didn't say that. If other atheists say that, that's fine. Ask me what I believe.
That means that atheists are not clear on what an atheist is, because you said there's two definitions of atheists.
Correct.
Okay, so in actual fact, it's exactly the opposite of what he says. We are very clear on what atheism is. It's the non-belief in God. However, there's certain people who believe there's definitely no God, and then there's people like myself who believe there's probably no God. And that's a very different position. And therefore, we have two different labels, two different names under the term atheist to differentiate ourselves, because it is very different. And I don't claim that there's definitely no God. So it's exactly the opposite. We actually know exactly what we're talking about, and we've even given it specialist labels, names, to differentiate our positions.
So some atheists have got civil war. Some atheists believe that nothing caused the Big Bang, yes? And some believe something did. Okay, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, let's use that same logic. Some Muslims blow up people, some don't.
Yeah, but
so but they all call themselves Muslims.
Yeah, but our book...
Okay, so there, as I say, was my cheeky analogy to go, hey, you know, if you put everybody under a single label and then you make an assumption about them, this is not a good way to have a conversation. Ask people what they believe, and then you'll find out what they believe, and they will have very different beliefs from other people that might give themselves the same name, either atheist or Muslim.
That's why I said ask me, because not everybody's the same atheist. So we use your logic, it doesn't quite work.
So you're calling some atheists fundamentalists?
Say again?
You're calling some atheists extremists?
Of course, I'm not saying anything of the sort. This is, again, just a way for him to misrepresent what I've actually said. Listen to what I actually say.
I'm saying some atheists are termed as a strong atheist. They have the positive claim, there's absolutely no God. So that's not me.
So you're weak atheist, yeah?
Correct.
You need some supplements, yeah?
Yeah, you can use that
some steroids, yeah?
It's a label.
So you're weak atheist.
Okay, so again, playing to the crowd. This is a game. This is not an honest conversation. This is almost like a schoolboy, playground type of conversation, which is not really what I'm looking for when I go and have conversations at Speaker's Corner.
Okay, so I want to ask you, as a Muslim, I define right and wrong by the Quran, yes?
Yes.
And the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, yes? As Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا إِنَّ إِنسَانَ لَفِي إِلَّا الَّذِينَ
So we're going to go on to the moral argument, are we now? I just want to make sure, because we were dealing with the cosmological.
Yeah.
You haven't really addressed that issue. Now we're moving on to
I have addressed
the
it.
Moral argument.
I addressed that I believe that Allah created. You tried to put me in a difficult situation.
Okay, I'm not trying to put anybody in a difficult situation. I'm asking questions to find out, how do you work out that Allah created the universe from nothing? The easiest, most respectable answer to say, and some Muslims say this, and great respect to them, is I don't know. Let me go and find out. But this gentleman will never, or seemingly never, want to use the term I don't know, and so he will try and avoid it by saying that I'm attempting to put him in a corner. I'm doing certain things to him. What I'm actually doing, of course, is asking some questions. And if you don't know the answer, the most honest and rational thing to say is I don't know, or I don't understand. Can you repeat, or let's move on because I'm not sure. I'm totally fine with that.
By saying that,
I'm not trying to put you in a difficult situation. I'm asking you a question.
This is my perception, yes? That you were trying to put me in a difficult position. You came to the conclusion that quantum
vacuum.
Quantum vacuum is eternal and it created a universe, yes? Or the Big Bang. And I came to the conclusion that Allah is eternal and he created a Big Bang.
That's not the question I originally asked you. Do you remember?
I know that's not a question you asked me, but the point I'm trying to say to you, you're in the same boat as me.
Okay, so this really tells me that he either doesn't understand my question or doesn't want to answer it, because it's got nothing to do with the fact that we're in the same boat. This is definitely a straw man argument now, so something that he's arguing which isn't what I originally asked, which was, how did God create something from nothing? That creating something from nothing is the real crux of the question or the conversation that I was trying to get at, and he's just moved on past that, either because he doesn't understand it or doesn't want to answer it.
No, I'm not.
Excuse me, what created the quantum vacuum?
That's eternal, so that was uncreated.
How did it begin with no beginning?
It was always there.
Okay, I call it Allah.
I know you do, but Allah's got different properties to the quantum vacuum.
I know, he's more powerful.
Okay, so here's a common claim. So both Allah and the quantum vacuum could potentially create the universe. And of course, he goes, oh, it's the same, which of course, even most honest Muslims wouldn't say that Allah is the same as the quantum vacuum. He then quickly corrects himself and says, oh, he's more powerful. And again, this is just an equivocation. So we're trying to be on the same footing here so we can move on, because I either don't understand or I don't know what you're asking me.
So you think But that's not the question I asked you, my friend.
Yeah.
Muslims claim that God, Allah,
Yeah.
created the universe from nothing.
Yeah.
I'm saying to you that claim doesn't seem to make sense.
Okay, does the quantum vacuum... Excuse me, what created the quantum vacuum? Nothing, yes? Nothing, yes?
The quantum vacuum is eternal, so it
Yes,
doesn't
so nothing
require
created
creating.
it. So it was just there forever.
Yes,
You understand that?
same as your God.
It makes sense to you, yes? Same as my God. So what's the problem? There's no problem.
Do I?
Okay, so again, there's a total misunderstanding or failure to understand, or perhaps willfully not wanting to answer the question. I think any honest viewer of this video can quite clearly see that what the question I'm asking is not whether the universe was created or whether the causes, be it the quantum vacuum or Allah, are eternal. I want to know, because there's a specific claim that Muslims make that God created the universe from nothing.
I need to ask the question again. You're not clear on the question I'm
I answered
asking.
your question. You don't like it. You don't like it, do you? You didn't think I had an answer. Look,
I'm not here to trap you, my friend.
I
I'm
know
not
you
here to
can't.
trap
You can't. I've been coming here for a long
Okay,
time.
so you...
Okay, so there it says it everything. At this moment, I should have walked away right now. This man has come here to showboat. You can't trap me. I've come here for a long time. Essentially, I know it all. This is not the sort of honest conversation I want to have had. My mistake. I should have ended it right here and now.
You're fantastic. Brilliant.
Okay.
Let me ask you again.
Yes.
People who know me here know I don't come here to try and prove what's right. I
Yeah.
want to find out what's true.
Yeah.
I asked you, Muslims believe
Yeah.
God created the universe from
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
I'm saying to you that language
Yeah.
is not correct.
Okay, I'm asking you, what was created the quantum vacuum before the quantum vacuum existed?
I don't think we're not on the same
No,
wavelength
I understand
here.
you.
No, you don't.
Okay, so he says he understands me, and he keeps asking me the same question when I've asked him a question. So again, all we need to do is go, Rob, I don't understand what you asked me, or I don't know, or I'll go and find out, or whatever the case is. But I think his mentality at this point is, I'll keep asking you the same question until you get tired of asking me the question that I either don't understand or don't know, and then hopefully we'll move on, and we can see that does actually happen.
I understand your question. I understand your statement.
You answer my question with asking me a
No,
question.
you know what it is? I understand the statement you're making. I just don't agree with it. Now, what I'm trying to say to you, you have quantum vacuum, yes? I have Allah, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my point to you now is my right and wrong comes from the Quran, yes?
Yes.
I'm trying to ask you a question. How do you define right and wrong?
Using the well-being of conscious creatures and the scientific knowledge of what is right and wrong.
Okay, so at this point, what I'm now unfortunately, a little bit frustrated with this conversation. As I say, I should have stopped it earlier. So whatever happens now, from my point of view, is definitely my fault. I take full responsibility for it. What I'm actually talking about here, if anybody, a viewer, wants to look this up and read it, I think it'll be a very valuable read for you, is a book by Sam Harris called The Moral Landscape. And it's essentially puts forward an argument for how a non-believer can ground their morality, in other words, the foundation for their morality, in an objective manner. In other words, have some kind of a yardstick against which to measure right and wrong. And so that's the position I'm attempting to articulate here. Unfortunately, not as well as I could have, and we simply move on from here.
Okay, I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
As a Muslim, we believe that homosexuality was wrong yesterday, we believe it's wrong today, and we believe it's wrong in the future. Because the creator of the universe says so. That's what we believe, yes?
Correct.
I'm asking you a question. Homosexuality, is it right or wrong?
Say again?
Homosexuality, is it right or wrong?
It's right.
Why?
Okay, so at this point we're onto the moral argument, and his question is, obviously, is homosexuality right or wrong? What we should have said is, why do we think homosexuality is right or wrong? What do we define by right and wrong? But we go straight into the right and wrong, which I answer as right. In other words, I don't see a problem with it, in the sense that if there are consenting adults, they should be free to do whatever they wish, as long as they don't cause harm to themselves and others.
Because it doesn't contribute towards the detriment of human well-being.
And because they're two consenting adults, yes?
Correct.
And they're not harming anyone, yes?
Correct.
Do you see, this is what I'm trying to say. Allah says in the Quran, وَالْأَصْلِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Very by time, mankind is lost except those who believe. And it's talking about Islam. Now,
Okay, so I would love for a Muslim to please post in the comments section the verse or verses that come from the Quran that actually forbid homosexuality, because what he's just said there says nothing about homosexuality. You've now got to read something, you've now got to translate that in. I'm quite open to the fact that the Quran actually does say that homosexuality is immoral or illegal or whatever the case is, please can somebody post in the comments the actual surah and verse that says that homosexuality is an immoral or it's a sin.
Now, this example that you gave, man has tried, yes, to leave God and the prophets, Jesus, Moses and Muhammad, and use their intellect. And they think with technology and intellect that they can get their way through life. But I will just show how this criteria, man-made criteria you have given, is going to fall apart and going to lead you down a road of misguidance. Okay, homosexuality is okay because it's two consenting adults and they're not harming anyone, yes?
Okay, so what he's trying to claim here is that without God, or when we move away from God, societies or people in general become more immoral / more unhappy, etc. Okay, so if we have a look here, this is the Good Country Index, and as you can see, it is ranking all the different countries with these different criteria: science and technology, culture, international peace and security, world order, planet and climate, prosperity and equality, health and well-being. And you can see Sweden is ranked at number 1. Interestingly, the UK is ranked at number 4. And also quite interestingly, actually, the United States is ranked at number 20. And that's obviously one of the more religious Western countries. Most Western countries aren't so religious. So you can see how much lower down the United States is there. And if we now look down here for the first Muslim majority country, we can see that they only come in at, there we go, Malaysia is at position number 42. So if we look at this chart of the country index showing the prosperity of different countries, we can see that this particular survey that's been done doesn't actually match with what he's attempting to say here, which is that people become less moral and therefore by extension the countries themselves would be worse off if people are less moral. This particular survey seems to suggest the exact opposite, that where there's little to no religion or it's not dominated by religion, countries are more prosperous, people are more happy, things seem to be better.
I want to ask you a question. If a mother and a daughter, yeah, and a father and a son reach the age of consent, yeah, is it immoral or is it wrong for them to have sexual relationships?
Do you mean incest?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be wrong biologically.
Why?
Okay, so this is a mistake of mine now, definitely. I misunderstood his question. I thought when I said the word incest, he was actually talking about a father-daughter or a mother-son, in which case, they could have sexual relationships and produce offspring. And so that's why I said, or answered as I did.
Because it creates biological problems when people have intercourse together.
You wasn't listening to my question. You never listened to my question. If a mother and a daughter, yes, and a father and a son reach the age of consent, yes, and they have a relationship
with who?
Each other.
Yes, that's incest. I've just said
okay,
that.
why is it?
Okay, so it is incest, but it's essentially a homosexual relationship because a mother-daughter is the same sex. They're of consenting age, which is, let's say, 18, and the same with the father-son. So these are two consenting adults. And yes, it's incest within the family, but essentially it still falls under the umbrella of homosexuality.
Because it's a biological problem, we've proven that.
But wait a minute, they're two consenting adults.
Yes.
What's the biological problem?
The problem is it creates deformed babies, it creates problems when you have incest.
You didn't listen to me, did you?
Okay, so I definitely didn't understand. It's not that I didn't listen, well, potentially I didn't listen, but I certainly didn't understand the question. I'm still thinking in my head that he's talking about father-daughter, mother-son. So this is definitely a fault on my side of not understanding the question.
Can a mother and daughter, yes, have a baby?
No.
Okay, so since your number one argument, you said that homosexuality is okay because they're free to do what they want and they're two consenting adults, yes?
Correct.
A mother and daughter can't have babies, can they?
What's that got to do with consenting adults?
You said.
You're now adding an extra term, aren't
calm
you?
Calm down.
Hold on.
You said that it's okay for homosexuals to have relationships because they're two consenting adults, yes?
Yes.
Okay, a mother and daughter, when they reach the age of consent, is it wrong for them to have sex?
No. But they don't have proper sex,
Look,
do they?
there you go. So it's okay for a mother to sleep with her daughter?
And so again, what he's trying to get to here is how bad this is. Essentially, the incest is because they're with family members, but it's still a homosexual or lesbian or gay act. In other words, it's two consenting adults of the same sex having intercourse. So it actually goes back to the original question, which this actually falls under homosexuality. But he definitely seems to want to make a big issue of it because it's within the family. So it's okay, presumably, or less bad for homosexuals that don't know each other, but it's worse for him if it's within a family.
In the sense of moral, it's fine. What I'm saying to you, listen to me.
While us in the inside of because in the you know what? My time. Look. See?
No, he wants to prove he's right.
No.
So he carries on.
Hold on.
That's the way he operates.
No, I let you speak.
I see how he operates.
Look, he's trying to make it look like I'm some fanatic phoning me at the mouth Muslim that doesn't let him speak. I let him speak, and he doesn't speak. Oh, brother. And look, so what I'm trying to say, see, this is why we need guidance, and this is why I suggest that you read the Quran and take it as a book of guidance.
I'm reading the Quran, brother. You don't know me.
I never said you wasn't, but I'm not telepathic, am I?
So here, I let that run for a little bit to show you the grandstanding that's going on here. This is about trying to prove me wrong. This is trying to make assumptions here. I haven't read the Quran. Instead of again asking me, have you read the Quran? Then I could have said, yes, I'm reading the Quran now. I'm about 40% of the way through the Quran. I have 5 translations that I look at. So I'm making an honest inquiry into the Quran. But instead he just thinks that I'm not reading the Quran because most other atheists don't.
So,
as standard response you give everybody.
No, but I'm not telepathic. Excuse me, I'm not telepathic. I don't know if you're reading the Quran.
So the best thing to do is ask, am I reading the Quran? Then I say yes.
Excuse me, are the vast majority of non-Muslims, reading the Quran? No.
So do you want to generalize everybody? Should I generalize that all Muslims are bombers? That's not a good idea. So your argument isn't good. What we should do is say, what do you believe?
Okay.
Then I tell you, are you reading the Quran? Yes, I am.
He's upset.
That's a better way than assuming I don't read the Quran.
I apologize if I offended you.
Okay, so at least he's apologized for that after showing him again with the analogy of, assuming all Muslims are bombers or evil people. It's the same thing generalizing with atheists. He actually did get the point here after a while, and he did apologize. So at least there was one acknowledgement here that, generalizing is not a good idea.
Okay, you said that homosexuality is okay because they're two consenting adults, yes? And they're not harming anyone.
Correct.
So I asked you, is incest between a mother and daughter, is a mother-daughter having a sexual relationship, is it right or wrong? And a father and a son. So basically now, the problem was that it was wrong because they were having kids. Mother-daughter, you said biological.
I said there's a problem if they were to have children in some way.
Biological.
If they were to have it, there would be a biological problem.
Yeah,
yes.
there would be a biological problem. But mothers and daughters don't have kids, do they?
Yes.
So now, is it right or wrong?
Is what right or wrong?
A mother sleeping with her daughter, is it right or wrong?
Is it right or wrong?
Yeah. As a Muslim, I say it's wrong.
No, then it's fine.
Okay, so what I should have added in here, and I didn't, because obviously I'm a little bit frustrated at this point of the conversation, what I should have added in, if there's no physical, psychological, sociological, or any other negative effects, then there's no reason for me to say that that's wrong. Would I choose to do it myself? No, which I actually say further down in the video, but I should have clarified this and said, as long as there's no proven negative effects of 2 family members having some kind of a sexual relationship, then who am I to say that it's wrong? If somebody can demonstrate that there's some sociological or physiological or biological problem with that, then I'll be the first to change my mind. And the reason I would change my mind is because there's evidence, because we've proven that there's something negative about having that kind of a relationship.
So if they can't have sex, you've just admitted
I'm asking your question. Is it okay for you to sleep with your father?
Is it
Okay, so now he's changed it to, is it okay if I sleep with my father?
okay to sleep with your father?
For you to sleep with your father?
No, because if you produce something, well, in that case, no. No, it's not. It's okay.
SubhanAllah.
It's fine.
While us, inna insana lafikus, illa ladina amanu. See, very by time, mankind are lost, except those who believe. So there's nothing wrong with you sleeping with your father?
No.
And if you have a daughter and she reaches the age of consent, is there anything wrong with you sleeping with your daughter?
Okay, so here he definitely changes it from, a same-sex relationship to a father-daughter relationship, which if they had sexual relations, we do know that creates deformities, that creates problems within biology when you have incest within the family. So potential offspring are born in some deformed way.
Me sleeping with my daughter.
Yes.
Now you've changed it.
Sorry,
what did you say before?
I apologize.
Yes.
I apologize. If you have a son,
I'm listening very
okay.
closely.
If you have a son, and that son reaches the age of consent, is there anything immoral about you sleeping with your son?
Is there anything immoral? Would I do it? No. Is it immoral? Would I prevent somebody else?
No. Is it wrong?
So what I again should have said here is, which is, I said it half of it here, which is, would I prevent somebody else? No. If there's no negative effects, sociology, physiology, biology, or anything like that, if there's no negative effects, then who am I to say whether it's right or wrong? I could say at this moment in time, there's no reason for me to prevent somebody else from doing that.
No.
It's okay. See? We don't want it. You don't want yourself, brother.
Okay, so you can see here I've answered the question. He's going to ask it a couple more times just to grandstand for everybody to show how immoral I actually am. So we're definitely not in any space here looking for any kind of truth and having an honest conversation.
Wait. This is what I'm trying to say. You make me happy to be a Muslim. So what I'm trying to say, you see what what atheism and democracy and liberalism does? What it does is when you become so open-minded, then you're rational.
So what actually happens when we become open-minded and free thinking, we allow other people to do what they want to do as long as it doesn't harm anybody in any of the ways I've mentioned, which is exactly the opposite of many theocratic countries, which have a lot of rules in place and punish people very harshly for what they consider infractions. So where would most people want to live? I leave that to the viewers to decide.
Come man, this man's very intelligent. You can see his expensive camera, you can see his expensive equipment. He's a very intelligent guy. But the problem is with him, yes, he's followed man-made laws. So what happens is that man tries to follow his way through life with his intellect and technology. But as we can see now, see, I may be backwards, I must be maybe a backward primitive Muslim. But you know what? I know a man sleeping with a man is wrong and a woman sleeping with a woman is wrong.
Okay, so why is it wrong? If it says it in the Quran, that's fine. And why is it wrong? Just because it says it in the Quran, or is there some other reason? Perhaps somebody can comment and tell me, yes, it's in the Quran and here's why it's wrong. That's the real part I want to understand, which I didn't get to ask him at this stage. We're close to the end of this conversation, and I'm not in the mood now to ask any further questions.
And I know, in the past Islam said that homosexuality is wrong, in the present day we say it's wrong, and in the future it's been wrong. And you know what? Hold on, please brother. And do you know what? I know, we knew 1400 years ago, sleeping with your mother is wrong, and sleeping with your father is wrong. And we know now, sleeping with your mother and father is wrong. And we know in the future, your mother's wrong. So I'm going to ask you a question, yeah?
Another one?
Yeah.
So you lecture and then you ask another question?
No.
So this is all just now playing for the crowd here. We're not actually asking questions to find out anything. I'm lecturing to the crowd to tell you how great I am, and I just want to ask a question just to reinforce how bad you are.
You shocked me. So what I'm trying to say to you is now, will you fight for the rights of gay people?
Yes.
Will you fight for the rights for mothers to sleep with their daughters?
Yes.
It's sick.
Okay, so this is pretty much the end of the conversation now. He's made a judgment call. He wanted to try and make it sound as bad as possible in order to feel like he's won this conversation. Just a great example of how not to have a conversation. So if you ever get in a conversation, whether it's with an atheist, a Muslim, a Christian, and you come across somebody like this who really isn't looking to have a truthful conversation, it's best to stop the conversation sooner rather than later. And obviously that was the mistake that I made here.
Sick. In 2016, you told me...
So have you got a coherent question you want to ask
me?
I
have.
Or are you just going to give me your subjective judgment?
I will. So in 2016, you told me that there is nothing wrong and it's not immoral for you to sleep with your son.
Who, me?
Yes, anyone.
No, I wouldn't choose to. If somebody else wants to do it, they're entitled.
But there's nothing wrong with a father sleeping with his son.
Correct.
And there's nothing wrong with a daughter sleeping with her mother.
Correct.
You're sick.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can see the sort of little sniggering laugh right at the end there. This gentleman thinks he's won this conversation. He thinks he's entirely right and I'm entirely wrong. So again, hopefully this has been instructive in some sense, certainly for me to clarify a few points where I went wrong, where I should have stepped away from this conversation a lot earlier on, because we really weren't going to have an honest conversation, and I sort of did pick that up, but just carried on going, and really I should have stopped then. So do feel free to post some comments here. If there's other conversations you'd like me to review in some way like this that might be instructive, then do send me a message or post something, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do some more comments, some more reviews of other conversations out there. Thank you very much indeed.